It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, blah, 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 blah. I'm glad to be with you, and we're glad you're with us today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Special shout out to all of our listeners on WGIG in New Brunswick. And if you haven't been to Sal's, swing by Sal's. Trust me, you'll love it. And speaking of swinging by Sal's, how about joining us next weekend, August 25th and 26th, for our next Billy C boxing event on beautiful St. Simon's Island at the Sea Palms Resort and Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria. We're going to be spreading ourselves between the two. Come on down, join Sal and myself, along with former world champions Marlon Starling, Bobby Ches, and Mike Hercules Weaver. In addition to that, we're going to actually see Sal Rocky Senacola work out with renowned trainer out of Tampa, Florida, Sherman Henson. And Sal's been working out, getting ready for the workout. So he's serious about that. So make sure you show up. In addition to that, we will have a meet and greet where you guys can hang out and chat with Marlon and Bobby and Michael Weaver, as well as a golf outing. We're going to have some food. We're going to have meals over at the Sal's place. We're going to be showing the fight over there. And we're going to, the fight, meaning McGregor-Mayweather, of course. And we will also be giving you a sneak peek at our Billy C's Boxing Revisited series, which will begin airing on the networks in the fall. So you guys will be the first ones to see it. So come on down, join us for a weekend of fun. Just visit cpalms.com, give them a call, mention the Billy C boxing event for all the special packages that they have available. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can literally get a copy of it right now while you're watching or listening to this show by visiting Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. Now, if you're looking to get a signed copy, don't worry about it. Just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. What? Maybe if you run into me at an event, especially at our next Billy C Boxing event down in St. Simon's, I'll have some copies. I'll be glad to give you a copy and sign it. So make sure you show up for all of that. Well, coming up a little bit later on the show, we have Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard scheduled to join us. We'll get his thoughts on the upcoming fight and next week's fight, because programming note, we are doing a live show obviously today, tomorrow, and Friday. Then we're off. We're off until Wednesday the 1st, I believe, or is that August 31st? It's that Wednesday after the Mayweather fight. I will be down in St. Simon's early, so if you guys want to come on down early, join Sal and myself at Sal's Restaurant. So a programming note there. Also, this week's Blast from the Past, Alex Papali will be joining us as per request. We got a request for former world champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Fritzy Zivic. So we'll be talking about him a little bit later on the show. In some quick boxing news, Mexican southpaw Luis Nery remained undefeated when he captured the WBC World Bantamweight title when he beat formerly unbeaten Shinuki Yamanaka on Tuesday night in Tokyo, Japan. In Kyoto, Kawato. It was in Japan on Tuesday night. 2 minutes and 29 seconds of the fourth round, Yamanaka's corner threw in the towel to save their fighter. What a great fight this was. If you missed it, you can catch it online. Yamanaka drops to 27-1 with a couple of draws, and Luis Nery improves to 24-0. And that's what happened on Tuesday. I got some other stuff to talk about, but today's topic, it all kind of got me thinking when I saw a press clipping of Robert Garcia. Now, Robert Garcia, former world champion, he's the trainer and brother of Mikey Garcia. And he was making a statement saying that Mikey would beat Floyd Mayweather right now. And I started thinking about it. And he also was saying, Floyd won't fight him. It's too much of a risk, blah, 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 blah. And I started thinking about it. And, I said to myself, the style that Mikey Garcia has and the fact that he comes at you and continues to throw punches, I started thinking, I'm saying, that would have been a good fight to see at least Mikey Garcia now versus Floyd now. And then it got me thinking even further. And I started saying, I know a lot of you know that I've been critical of Floyd Mayweather and stuff. I'm not a big fan of Floyd, especially outside the ring. And inside the ring, his fights to me are pretty boring. So I kind of wanted to take a look at his record and dissect it. And I did. And I've come to the conclusion that, at least for the last decade, Floyd Mayweather has been nothing less than a smokescreen. I mean, all right, I'm going to get into it and tell you why. But joining me right now from St. Simon's Island is the man, the myth, the legend himself, my main man, Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, Sal? Right off the bat.
Right off the bat, I'm telling you, you're looking to do a grand slam. But I'll tell you, I give Floyd Mayweather a little more credit than just that. And I'll tell you why. The guy has a 49-0 record. It's not all about the record, but it's who he fought. And in those 49 wins, he's had some opposition. Ring where he wants to. He's a chess master in the ring. Now, if his opponents have not been more than stellar, hey, he's still fighting, and he's still fighting formidable opponents that are in the rankings, that are up there somehow. And I give Floyd Mayweather more credit than just that statement that he's been just patted or whatever the heck. I give him credit. He's a skillful tactician and fighter. I'm not necessarily a fan of his personal life or what he's doing, and I really think his whole reason of coming out and fighting is because he does owe the IRS. And I think some of his camp said, hey, buddy, you're going to be winding up in jail and repossessing all your toys unless you fight and make something stellar happen. So Floyd, if that is even a partial reason why he's doing this whole extravaganza that I call boxing fake, it's not really a fight, it's a fraud. At least he is doing so with having the ability to gain the attention of his fan base and the public's eye and the whole mystique of what the world of MMA and boxing could be all about. They clash in the middle of the ring. And he's brought it to a worldwide attention. So this guy is like a Ringling Brother and Barnum Bailey promoter for himself. And I got to give him all the credit in the world because he's got that kind of base. He's got that kind of salesmanship. And he's building that whole mystique of people paying to see what this whole thing is going to be about. But I give Floyd a little more credit than just saying, his last 10 years have been padded and everything else. He's a skillful fighter, and I do respect that.
I've never said he wasn't a skillful fighter.
No. I know.
Let's look at the nuts and bolts. All right, because Floyd Mayweather has and by the way, just for the record, I don't believe that his team really cares about Floyd. The sad part about it is nobody's really looking out for Floyd. They're all sucking him dry. I mean, and that's the truth. True. All right, but when you take a look at Floyd Mayweather's record, and he started his career just like many other fighters that have become well known or world champions or whatever, prominent fighters. It started it just like everyone else. So I'm not going to criticize him for some of his carefully selected fights, although he did fight some decent guys early on. But when you look at his first 17 professional fights, the only 2 fights that I really give him credit for out of those first 17, and again, I shouldn't say only give him credit. I'm going to say give him more credit than just the run-of-the-mill opponents, were the last 2 fights that led up to his first world title fight against Gustavo Coelho and Tony Peck. Both he won via a unanimous 10-round decision. And both of these fighters, and in 1998, he fought Gustavo Coelho, who had a record of 20-7. And he beat him in California. This is when he used to fight in other places. Beat him in California. And then Tony Peck, which I believe this was a fight that Larry Hazard said that this kid is going to be something special after this performance against Tony Peck, who had a 39-6 record, and they fought at the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and he won a 10-round decision. This is when he would fight frequently. He fought April of 98 against Coelho, and then again in June of the same year against Tony Peck. It set up his first world title fight against Gennaro Hernandez. And by the way, this was for the junior lightweight belt. So we're talking about a Floyd Mayweather that was extremely talented back in that time. And he beat Gennaro convincingly, making Gennaro unable to continue after the 8th round. So you look at that and you say, okay, this guy was a legit fighter, no question. And I would never even suggest anything to the contrary. But then when you start looking at his rise, his next fight in 1998 was against Angel Manfredi. Again, a fight against an established fighter. Manfredi at the time had a record of 25-2-1. Guess what? You guys got to hold that thought, because I have to take a break because the networks are very, very strict about that. So hold that thought. I'll be back. I'm going to say about 2 minutes.
Billy C will be right back.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget to join us next weekend for the McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fight down on St. Simon's Island. Join me, Sal, Rocky Senacola, Marlon Starling, Mike Weaver, Bobby Ches, Sherman Henson. We're going to have a great time. A lot of stuff going on. Visit cpalms.com. and make your reservations today. Tell them you want the Billy C. Boxing special, or you could just visit our website and click on the banner. I'm here with Sal, Rocky Senacola, and before we went to break, Sal, we were talking about Floyd Mayweather's career. I'm giving you a rundown. You had said that, well, basically you kind of disagreed with me a little bit, but after he won his title,
a little bit.
I know, after he won his title against Hernandez, 2 months later, continuing. Now, just keep in mind, this was an exciting Floyd Mayweather. This was a version of Floyd Mayweather that was exciting to watch. And he beat Angel Manfredi, stopping him in 2 rounds. Now, people could make an excuse that Angel Manfredi was starting to get involved with, let's just say, extracurricular activities. But nonetheless, he was a substantial foe. And Floyd Mayweather made quick work of him. Excuse me. Then he again fights a couple months later against Carlos Alberto Ramon Ramirez and wins a 12-round decision against him. He also followed that up a couple of months later against Justin Juco. He was criticized a little bit for that fight, but nonetheless, Juco was 33 wins, 2 losses, and a draw in this fight. And again, it was a title defense. And again, Floyd Mayweather won by knockout. He would fight again 4 months later against Carlos Janera. Now, remember, he was under the banner of Top Rank. And this is when he started feeling that, maybe he was being abused. But when you look at his career, I mean, if he would have continued in this manner, I think there'd be no question about Floyd's ability. He had a couple of wins against Carlos Jarrera, Gregorio Vargas. Emmanuel Augustus was, Floyd had said many times, it was one of his most difficult fights because of the unorthodox style of Augustus. He fought Diego Corrales, which was a good fight that Floyd ended up winning by knockout. Fought Carlos Hernandez in May of 2001. And then Jesus Chavez in November, stopping Chavez, who had only been once beaten going into that fight. When you look at his next choice of an opponent, this was a fight where many people thought that Floyd lost. It was his first fight against Jose Luis Castillo. It took place on April 20th in 2002 in Las Vegas. It was for the world lightweight title, and Floyd won a unanimous 12-round decision. Many people thought he lost this fight, including myself, but yet he got the nod. It set up a rematch, one of Floyd's only. He had 2 rematches with fighters throughout his career, and this was the first one. And a couple of months later, at the end of 2002, they set up the rematch at the Mandalay Bay in Vegas. This time, Jose Luis Castillo, he beat Castillo pretty convincingly, in my opinion, which set up his continued in the world lightweight division, Victorino Socha, Philip Nadeau, which was a fight that, again, these guys had good records, but whatever. DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley was an impressive win. DeMarcus at that time was a good fighter at 28-2. And then the fight that he had, which I thought started changing everything. On my birthday, January 22nd in 2005, he fought Henry Brussels, who had a record of 21 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And this fight, in my opinion, was kind of a joke because Brussels had been coddled, and his record, if you take a look at the 21 wins, were against non-entities of fighters, and Floyd beat him by a knockout, which after that he fought Arturo Gatti. Arturo Gatti had to move up in weight. He dominated Arturo Gatti. Sharmba Mitchell followed that, and Sharmba Mitchell was already done as a fighter, and you start to see this trend. You know, when he fought Zab Judah was a good opponent, good name, gave him some trouble, but Floyd won that. And then this is where it all changed, in my opinion. Now, granted, those fights that I just said, Sharmba Mitchell, Arturo Gatti, Henry Brussels, those 3 fights were, they were fights that were carefully selected. Let's just say that. And then when he fought Zab Judah, it was more of a difficult fight. But the fight that took place on November 4th in 2006 against Carlos Baldomir was when Floyd really, in my opinion, started cherry-picking his opponents. He chose Carlos Baldomir to fight for the WBC and the IBO's World Welterweight titles. There was also the IBA title on the line. And this was when everybody wanted to see Floyd fight the guy who was controlling the welterweight division at the time, and that was Antonio Margarito. Now, you could say what you want about Antonio Margarito, what we found out later in his career, specifically the concrete in his gloves against Sugar Shane Mosley. But at this time, nobody knew it, and this was the fight. This was the fight that everybody wanted to see. And instead, Floyd Mayweather chose a guy who really won the title by mistake and was extreme. And let's be real, Antonio Margarito was a stationary target too. It's just that he possessed a lot of pop and power and was destroying people. But instead, Floyd chose Carlos Baldomir. He won a decision, won the welterweight title. Then he fights Oscar De La Hoya when Oscar De La Hoya was already kind of washed up. And I got news for you. He won a split decision. I thought Oscar won. This was the famous fight, Sal, that Oscar's corner told him, hey, don't fight anymore. You won this fight. Take the last 2 rounds off. And he ended up losing a very close split decision. Never gave Oscar a rematch. And, that fight was also when you started to see Floyd pick his opponents, the timing aspect. And this is where I really start to say, well, Floyd from 2006 against the Carlos Baldomir fight was when Floyd started becoming the cherry picker that he is today. He fought Ricky Hatton, which was a very small opponent. He stopped Hatton, and won that fight. He fought Juan Manuel Marquez again, making Marquez move up a couple of weight classes. He fought Sugar Shane Mosley in 2010, a fight. I love Sugar Shane Mosley, talented fighter, no doubt, great resume. But the fight against Sugar Shane should have taken place several years earlier, not then when Sugar Shane was already showing signs. The Victor Ortiz fight, which took place in 2011, come on, that was a sucker punch. You could give Floyd credit for a knockout or whatever, but that was a sucker punch to be his last knockout win. The Miguel Cotto fight, he ran in that fight and won a 12-round decision. Robert the Ghost Guerrero in that fight in 2013, the Ghost had to move up. I personally thought the Ghost deserved that fight, but we saw how limited he was and how Floyd was able to move. He did beat Saul Canelo Alvarez in 2013. We got to give him credit for that. We saw that. We got to give him credit for that, Sal. But in 2013, Saul Canelo Alvarez was still a pup, so to speak, even though he had 42-0 record. This was a guy that Floyd said, hey, I better fight him now, and he did. And this is where he moved up and won the junior. He won the junior middleweight division title. Then he fought Marcos Maidana. The first fight, majority decision win. A lot of people thought Maidana won that fight. It was pretty close. Another gift decision for Floyd. He gave him the rematch and dominated like he did. And then he finally fights Manny Pacquiao in 2015. Turns out to be 5 years too late and an extremely anticlimactic fight. We saw that one, Sal. And then finally, which he's been successfully bragging about. But Sal, the 49-0 record was only substantial in the heavyweight division. It had nothing to do with any other division. It was symbolic because in the heavyweight division, nobody had reached 49-0. And Floyd was able to market that and believe that he's the guy. I think that for the last decade, Floyd Mayweather certainly hasn't been fighting the best of the best. He's been fighting name guys at the right time. What does this all mean to you?
Well, you make some key points that I cannot argue or disagree with, and I will not. I mean, the bottom line is, yes, the 49-0 record is really just significant for the heavyweight division. That's the mountain. There is no other heavyweight champion that has achieved a record of 49 wins without a defeat. And that's the whole thing. When you look at the heavyweight division, and how it's moved along. And, the heavyweight division used to be the grandest, the most coveted world title in the history of sports. And that's where it was so magnificent and important, was the fact that Rocky Marciano retired from boxing and never came back with a perfect record of 49 wins, 0 defeats, and having 43 of those wins come by knockout. And not just questionable knockouts, big knockouts. And the bottom line is, Floyd is a marketing genius, and he has parlayed his success on that of Rocky Marciano's. And like I said, whether you love him or hate him, he's a marketing genius. The guy's done what he's got to do, even though in his division and other divisions, there have been many, many fighters that have attained 49 win status and still had titles or were getting titles or were still climbing to get a title, and they didn't have their first defeat until their 60th, 70th, or 80th fight. So Floyd is just marketing himself. He's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's a very defensive fighter. He's a very smart fighter, very cerebral fighter. The guy knows exactly what he wants, what he's doing, and that's where I give him credit, because he's pulling the wool over a lot of people's eyes, but still, I give him credit. And that's the whole thing. It's a debatable issue, and we'll be talking about this next year. We'll be talking about it when we do a blast from the past, when Floyd Mayweather's name comes up again. And the bottom line is, this guy has beaten 49 opponents, whether they were all at their peak or not. We know they weren't. But the bottom line is, he's 49 wins, 0 defeats, with 1 KO. No, I'm teasing. I don't know the KOs. And and I got to give him credit for that.
Well, a couple of names: Paul Williams, Vernon Forrest, Fernando Vargas, all names that he could have fought, that he avoided at that time. He took the lesser opponents, and great fighters in the past have always went and selected the other names that are parallel at the upper echelon when he's chosen not so great names or making guys move up. Nonetheless, he's a former 6th Division world champion. He was a world junior lightweight, junior welterweight, and junior middleweight world champion. Like you said, Sal, he's 49-0 with, by the way, 26 knockouts. And I personally think that this fight against Conor McGregor, it may help him financially, but it's going to hurt him in the large scope of things, because there's more pressure on Floyd Mayweather to do well against Conor McGregor than there is for Conor McGregor to do well against Floyd. If this fight goes the distance, which incidentally, it's a 12-round fight, which I don't understand. There's no title on the line, and the funny thing is, when you look at the computer rankings, they give it no stars. The computer doesn't recognize this at all, and the main reason is because Conor McGregor's never, boxed.
He's a non-entity in the boxing world.
But there's pressure on Floyd. Floyd does have to look good against Conor McGregor, and if Conor McGregor goes the distance, I think that's going to hurt Floyd a bit. But nonetheless, me personally, I think Floyd Mayweather has been his career as a smokescreen for at least the last decade. Early on, exciting fighter, fought often, showed us a lot of skill, a lot of willing to exchange, but those days are long gone, more than 10 years away. What's your thoughts? Drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing. Sal, we're going to kick you to the curb for a little bit, but don't go nowhere, because we're going to get you back a little bit later. Coming up in a minute or two, we are scheduled to have my man Larry Hazard join us. So don't go nowhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
This message is for all Americans that owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS. Look, I know you want to keep ignoring those letters, but the problem isn't going away. It's really stressful, and you don't know where to turn.
The good news is you have rights, and we can help resolve your IRS problems.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now and we will contact the IRS on your behalf, help you end wage garnishments, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, get rid of IRS and state tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. You wouldn't go to fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
Let us take the stress of back taxes and the IRS off your shoulders so you can spend time on the important things in your life, like your family or your business. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you.
KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.kofantasyboxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.kofantasyboxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.kofantasyboxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I would think.
Alla tagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo,
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York and the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget, join us next weekend down on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. We're doing a Billy C boxing event, and it's going to be at the Sea Palms Resort. Check it out. You can visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, or just go to seapalms.com. Give a call and tell them you want the Billy C boxing packages. Join myself, Sal Rocky Senecola, Marlon Starling, Bobby Ches, Mike Weaver, to name a few. They'll be with us. Sal will be doing a workout. Come on by and have some fun. Speaking of having fun, joining me right now is my man Larry Hazard. Good morning, Larry.
Morning, Bill.
You know, we're not going to be doing. We're not going to be seeing you on the show for next week because we're going to be down doing our event. But I started. I'm going to get your thoughts on that fight in a second, even though I know you're. It's like fingernails down a chalkboard. But you know, I was just doing a little segment about Floyd Mayweather, and you know, I'm criticized a lot about my feelings towards Floyd, and I give him a lot of credit. I just don't like the man outside the ring, which I shouldn't judge or whatever. But, when I was looking at his record, my argument here, Larry, is that for the last decade or so, he's really carefully, let's just choose the words right, he carefully selected his opposition. But in the beginning of his career, this guy was fighting every 2 months. He was fighting decent opposition, and one fight specifically came to mind when I was researching and doing my little bit here. And I believe it's a fight that you allured to one day where you said that when you saw him fight this fight, you knew that this was going to be somebody special. And it was the fight that was just before his world title fight against Genaro Hernandez, and he fought Tony Peck at the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. Was that the fight that you watched, that you had said one time in the show that you saw the skill set and knew that Floyd was going to accomplish some great things? Was that the one you were referring to?
Yeah, I think that was the fight. I saw, in my opinion, early on, I always say, I had seen Floyd, fight coming out of, his early part of his career. And what I normally do is, like, when I see a young fighter that has potential, I look, as I follow his career, I look to see where he improves. I look for improvement. I don't look so much, of course, if he wins, that's great. I mean, but I've never been hung up that much on having undefeated record. I mean, certainly a good fighter, he's not going to lose a lot of fights. But I expect that even some of the best fighters are going to lose a fight here and there. But what I look for is, from fight to fight, where does he improve? How does he adjust? Where does he come back, even from a loss, and correct the mistakes that he made in previous fights? Floyd was undefeated. But when he came into Atlantic City in that particular fight, I saw a skill set that many young fighters don't have. Early on, Floyd showed you certain skills and maneuvers and just mastery of certain basic mechanics, the way he utilized the space in the ring, the way that he, just the way that he executed his skills. And I just knew that this kid was special. I just felt, I said, man, this kid really has got some special. I see a lot of that in that youngster that he's mentoring, that Gervonta Davis. I see some of the same elements. And so, certainly with Davis, we're going to see if I'm correct, or if it pales out. But with Floyd, it did, and it's just something that I think maybe I have a photogenic eye for that. But I mean, if you focus on those elements, I think you might see the same thing. And that's what I saw in Floyd early on, and he proved me right in that respect. Now I know you certain things about him you don't like, Billy, and it's well warranted. I mean, I can respect it. He doesn't like to engage. Okay, that's the one aspect of Floyd Mayweather that has somewhat turned me off in his whole resume of skills and performances. He doesn't really like to engage, and that's mainly because it's embedded in his mind that the name of the game is to hit and not get hit. And so he has been able to get by with it, and certainly he has demonstrated that he's the best fighter of his era. But that was the fight, and if I could have predicted then that he would probably go on and be the best fighter of his era, it would have been really an accomplishment. But I just knew that he was going to be special. and he turned out to be special.
Well, see, this is where the controversy in my mind lies. And everything you said, I mean, and when I was, breaking down his record and going fight for fight, and I'm seeing this kid fighting every couple of months, and he's fighting, the normals, the usual suspects. I mean, you're not going to criticize a guy in his first 10, 12, 15 fights for fighting the guys that you're supposed to fight in the first 15. But he was dominating, and he did show that skill set. But he was engaging back then. And he was getting knockouts back then. And when all of a sudden he realized that he doesn't want to, and you bring up a great point with Gervonta Davis, because Gervonta Davis, he does engage. And if Floyd tutors him to stop that, it's going to be disheartening, because I believe that if Floyd Mayweather would have continued fighting in that style, the fight that he fought, that we mentioned, and then his first title win, I believe that this guy would be regarded as the best, if not at least in the top 5. I just think his safety first approach is what ruined it for him. And you're right. I like fighters that want to engage. But here's where he was successful. He's been able to, in my own words, bamboozle his fan base to accept the fact that he doesn't engage. And if you try to make that argument to someone, well, he doesn't engage, sweet science isn't just to avoid being hit. You're supposed to be in position to, inflict damage on your opponent. They will argue, well, why should he take the damage? He's this, he's great defensively. And you have to give the guy credit for bamboozling his fans enough for them to accept his boring fights. And I look at a guy like Terence Crawford, who's fighting this weekend. Terence Crawford is an extremely talented fighter, Larry. He can box. Yes. He can move. Yes. He goes in for the kill. He waits. It's not like he just rushes in and wants to take your head off. He learns. He figures you out. Then he goes in and takes your head off. That's the kind of guy, in my mind, that'll finish higher in my all-time great list. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting Terence Crawford has accomplished as much as Floyd has. But my point is that if he ends up, winning another 10 fights in his career, and he's fighting the best that his division has to offer, well, then when it comes time, I am going to put more value on a fighter that was willing to engage, because it just shows how much better they are. Again, we'll go back to your boy. We'll go back to Sugar Ray Leonard. He did. This was a guy that people used to, it makes me laugh when people of that era in the 80s used to say he was a runner. And how many times did he engage? You know what I mean? Big difference.
Yeah. And I think you hit on another important point. It's fashionable. The fighters of this era, it's fashionable. Billy, I see it. Believe it or not, here in New Jersey, we are, we do have our share now of a few decent fight cards, low level, nothing real big yet, but we're staying busy.
That's the backbone of boxing. Yeah, but that's the backbone of boxing. You know that.
Yes, and what I see, Billy, even with some of these matchmakers, you got to wrestle with these guys, okay? It's fashionable, that this undefeated, take no chances mentality is really deep-seated now in the boxing business, so to speak. It's there. Unlike a generation ago, where it was different. You mentioned Sugar Ray Leonard. And I can go on, but Sugar Ray Leonard happens to be pound for pound my favorite. Anybody who says that Sugar Ray, was a laid-back fighter who ran and all that, it's crazy. That Sugar Ray Leonard, I never saw a guy with the killer instinct that he had, that, his demeanor outside of the ring matched in no way the viciousness that this guy had inside of the ring, and he didn't run from anybody, And the fighters of his era, they were all cut from that cloth because it wasn't that fashionable then, that this undefeated record. And I think what happened somewhere along the way with Floyd, I think that really caught got his attention, that he was on his way, after he won 30 fights, after he won 25 fights, hey, look, there's a chance that I could break Rocky Marciano's record or equal his record. This whole mentality of undefeated. And then this whole mindset of undefeated just kind of got overwhelmed. The boxing game, the industry, got overwhelmed with this mentality. And I get even these club fighters coming here with these undefeated records, and they don't want to fight anybody. A guy could be 5-0.
I know.
Okay? And he doesn't want to fight anybody.
Listen,
he wants a dead body.
And that's you see, in all due respect to Floyd, and whether Floyd decided that he was going to use that as his marketing ploy or what, a lot of that fault, Larry, and you see, you're in the trenches, a lot of that fault goes to the management, promoters, and even television networks when it's going to be on TV, because they are the ones that say, oh, what? They don't, first of all, they don't know these. How do you think that they approve HBO or somebody approves a fight against some guy that nobody's ever heard of, who comes from, some country the size of a postage stamp, and he's 29-0 with 28 knockouts? Oh, he's good. They don't look at who. They don't look at any of the guys that he's fighting, and they say he's good because of the O. And it's sad because no fighter wants to lose. Come on, man. No fighter wants to lose. No fighter starts a career and says, you know what? If I can only lose 5 fights, I'll be okay. No. No fighter wants to lose. But when they do lose, you said it when we first got you on. You said that a fighter learns from their loss, and only the great fighters do, because it's the same thing in any sport. You lose a basketball game, you lose a football game, you go back and you say, okay, this is why we lost. We didn't block this guy the right way, blah, blah, blah. And you go back and you improve, and you make damn sure that the next time you play, you don't miss that block. And that's how you improve. That's how we get better and smarter. Floyd had that whole undefeated mentality, and then he started cherry-picking opponents to make sure he preserved that. And as a result, I think when the smoke clears 5 or 10 years from now and we start putting it in perspective, he's not going to finish as high as people think he is on the all-time great list. Your guy, and I loved him too, Sugar Ray Leonard, when he came out of retirement, what does he do? He seeks out the best guy that was available, a guy that was dominating the division for almost a decade. It's equivalent to Floyd coming out and not fighting Conor McGregor, but going after Triple G. That's what great fighters do. And one last thing before you comment. The 49-0 record, what bothers me the most isn't the fact that they're giving him Conor McGregor to hit 50. It's that the 49-0 record, and correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, if you feel differently, but that record and the significance of that record pertain to the heavyweight division, because no heavyweight made it that far. Many fighters surpassed 49-0 before losing for their first time. What bothers me is a lot of young fans throw that out the window. They have this perception that no fighter has reached 49-0 except for Rocky Marciano, and that's BS.
Oh, you know what? You really hit on a very important point there. That is absolutely correct. Because, Sugar Ray, the other Sugar Ray, he won like 80-some-odd fights before he lost his first one, I believe. So you're absolutely right. It really pertains to the heavyweight division. But you would think that there was, the way they blow that up, okay, you would think that no other fighter has done that. And that is not the case. And I think that that's something that really needs to be emphasized more, as we talk about that. But you're absolutely right. It pertains to the heavyweight division, not just to all of boxing. Because there are several other fighters that didn't lose their first fight until well beyond the 40s, 45, 50 fights.
Yeah, well, Sugar Ray Robinson, his first loss was to Jake LaMotta. And when I start talking about him and people tell me, Floyd Mayweather fans tell me, oh, no, he's not as good as Floyd. I said, well, because they say, oh, he lost these fights. I'm like, well, look at who he fought. He was the greatest welterweight. Well, there's no footage. Well, when you read 100 different, top-notch writers all writing the same thing, yes, there's no footage, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So a lot of young fans today, really what they're saying is prior to 1980, when filming became, quality, we're going to just throw out all the other. It's ludicrous. You know what, Larry? We're getting close here to running out of time, and I know you don't give predictions, but I think you need to make an exception on this because it's not really a real fight. I mean, we got to agree that it's not really a real fight. Mayweather against Conor McGregor. They're really trying hard. I really especially love the we're gonna go with the smaller gloves. That will never happen. That can't happen. I mean, and if it does, again, the commission, I think, ends up with egg on the face. I know commissions will approve using a bigger glove if both parties agree, but I'm not so sure about a smaller one for that weight class. But I don't know. But Larry, what's your thoughts on the fight? When push comes to shove, a week from Saturday, when Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor get into the ring, Floyd's been saying he's going to engage. Conor's predicted a second-round knockout. The press conferences, I believe, were more entertaining than the fight will ever be. What's your thoughts? How do you see the fight going, and what will be the result?
Well, all of the above. All of the above. I don't think that this McGregor has much of a chance against Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to tell you something, that all the pressure is on Floyd, in my view.
I just said that. I said the same thing earlier. I said all the pressure is on Floyd because even if Conor goes 12 with him, he's going to be criticized, right?
Oh, my gosh. If Floyd Mayweather doesn't go in there and take this guy out of there within 4 or 5 rounds, then, what he is seeking to prove is really going to go in the opposite direction, even if he wins in 12 rounds, okay? All of the pressure is on Floyd. Floyd, if he doesn't demolish this guy, if he doesn't stop him, or if he doesn't knock him out, okay, it just may very well flip the other way, and Floyd gets discredited for all of the wins that he's had. Because, to me, this fight, of course, you know how I feel about it. And I'll make a prediction, because to me it's not a real fight, so I don't care on this. There's no way that this McGregor is supposed to be even competitive against Floyd Mayweather or any real fighter, okay? Any real fighter. He's strictly in it for the money, and I don't blame him, okay? Because he's an MMA fighter. He's not even being allowed to use really the MMA skills that he's best at. Wasn't that great at stand-up. This is what they call stand-up, basically in MMA, stand-up. He's not, any ground fighting involved here. And, they brought in Joe Cortez, I guess to kind of acclimate him to the rules or whatever. I don't know what the hell that means, because if you're not acclimated to the rules, you shouldn't even be in there, So there's no way that Floyd Mayweather should lose this fight, and there's no way that the fight should even be competitive, because I think Floyd is going to be discredited even if he allows this guy to demonstrate any semblance of competition against him and then expect to be considered the best fighter ever, okay? with quotations, because his record goes to 50-0, which, in my opinion, is going to always have an asterisk next to it if he wins anyway. So that's my opinion.
Let me ask you a quick question about the referee. Do you think now there is a clause that if Conor McGregor, snaps for a second, loses his mind, forgets he's in a boxing ring and not an octagon, and he does some kind of a MMA move, that he automatically gets DQ'd and he gets no money. Now, with that said, do you think that I call it like it is. I think that the Las Vegas, or let me rephrase that, the Nevada State Athletic Commission has really acted in a spineless, gutless manner pertaining to this fight, and even allowing it. But do you think that the referee, whoever it may be, I don't even know who it is going to be quick to DQ Conor McGregor? For an example, how many times have we seen a fighter deliver a punch, and whether it's kind of on purpose or totally by accident, finish with an elbow? Okay, Floyd Mayweather does it a lot, and that's an illegal punch. Or if he gets hit behind the head, or something, a low blow, something that is not legal but happens in the sport of boxing, which would normally garner a warning if the ref catches it or whatever. Do you think in this fight that Conor McGregor is going to be chastised for anything that's outside of the rules on paper? Do you think he is going to be DQ'd quickly, or are they going to give him any kind of a benefit of the doubt?
No, I don't think that whoever the referee is, I know Bayless, he's pretty much eliminated himself, my understanding, because of some comments that he made in an interview, at least as far as the McGregor people are concerned, if that is correct, but I don't think that the referee is going to be that quick to disqualify McGregor, okay, because of the pressure of this type of contest, this fight. I think the referee is going to be extra cautious to give him every opportunity that he could before taking any stringent action against him for any infraction. That's what I expect to see, because the referee is not going to, he's going to feel that he doesn't want it to appear it's lopsided enough. And I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't some big debate over whether they're going to use an MMA referee or a boxing referee. I'm expecting that debate to come down the pike before the fight takes place. So we'll wait and see. But to answer your question directly, no, I think the referee is going to be very cautious with his point deductions and his warnings and all of the other stuff, while at the same time trying to maintain a semblance of control of the event because of the money, because of the publicity, and all of the other, surrounding factors. I don't expect that there's going to be any quick disqualifications or anything of that nature. If I was the referee, I know I would be very cautious.
Well, I wish you were going to be the referee. I wish you'd come out a retired referee and come and do it. But I just, I think I agree with you 100%. Floyd Mayweather has a lot more to lose in this fight. Conor McGregor, if he makes it to the final bell, it's a win for him, whether he wins on paper or not. But I anticipate a knockout win for Floyd as well, just like you. And I don't think it's going to come from power. I think it's going to be similar to Muhammad Ali knocking out George Foreman. I think Conor McGregor's own fatigue is going to knock himself out, and we'll see what happens. I'd be lying if I said I'm not hoping for that lucky punch just to serve Floyd right and to make other people realize that you can't play this game, but we'll see what happens.
That's why I keep saying, in a fight, anything can happen. You cannot play boxing.
No. And people say, can Conor win, Bill? Can Conor win? I said, The only chance he's got is if Floyd trips and falls and knocks himself out on after the first bell. He said after that, don't give him much of a chance. But hey, I've been wrong before. And usually, the way and Las Vegas is going to lose a ton of money if McGregor wins his fight. So we'll see what happens. But Larry, I appreciate your time. Don't forget, next week we will not be doing a show because we'll be down in St. Simons. I know you got something going on, so enjoy that, and we'll see you when we get back.
Okay, Billy. Okay, buddy.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Okay.
That's Larry Hazard, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Athletic Commissioner. He doesn't like to give predictions, which he shouldn't. I mean, come on, we don't want anybody to throw it in his face. But he gave one on this one, and you know why? Because it's kind of like a, WWE event. But anyway, hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have the blast from the past. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back, I would say, I'm going to give a wild prediction. 2 minutes.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could join us. Oh, speaking of joining us, don't forget, man, next Billy C. boxing event taking place next weekend on beautiful St. Simons Island in Georgia at the Sea Palms Resort and at Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant. Join us. Myself and Sal Rocky Senecola, and of course former world champions Marlon Starling, Bobby Ches, and Mike Hercules Weaver, and renowned trainer out of Tampa, Sherman Henson, who incidentally will be working out our very own Rocky Senecola in front of everyone. So make sure you check that out. We'll have a meet and greet. We'll have some dining at Sal's. We're going to have a golf outing, and in addition to the showing the fight, the whole pay-per-view card and the preliminary fights, we will be showing you a sneak peek, first time airing of our new boxing series, Billy C's Boxing Revisited, which will begin airing in the fall. But we're going to show you at least one episode in its entirety. So make your plans now. Visit cpalms.com, ask for the Billy C Boxing packages, or just visit our website, billycboxing.com, and click on the CPalms banner. Now it's that time again where we do one of our favorite and longest going segments, our Blast from the Past. And this week's Blast from the Past is being sponsored by KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and the Title Bout Championship computer game. Download yourself a copy right now by visiting our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and clicking on the Title Bout Championship computer game banner. This week's Blast from the Past features former world champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Fritzy Zivic. And joining us right now to tell us all about Fritzy Zivic is my man, Alex Perpali. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. How about yourself, my man?
I've got actually a summer cold, which is no fun at all. Pretty stuffed up, and I got a cough, but hopefully I'll make it through this segment without too much mucus.
Well, between your mucus and your lawn service, hopefully we'll get through. And hey, maybe a little word of advice. Maybe turn the air conditioner up to 55 instead of your normal at 47. You like to keep it at,
Yeah, maybe that. I wonder what the problem is. If it's sleep, if it's the mold allergies, or if it's air conditioning. You go in and out from the hot to the cold. I don't know, but yeah, woke up feeling lousy.
Well, hey, that's when you get to be my age, and you got a few years before you get there. When I wake up, I feel good that I woke up.
Yeah, at least I woke up.
I've been feeling extremely old lately, Alex. But Fritz, a bunch of times each, So he fought everybody a lot. Tell us about Fritzy Zivic.
It's absolutely amazing how much he fought. He just battled every single, every badass of the era. He fought. It's stunning. He was born. Two of them actually made it all the way to the 1920 Olympics. They got their start at a local amateur boxing club known as the Willow Club, and one of the brothers actually was lost in the finals in the 1920 Olympics in Belgium to Fidel Labarba. So that's the first of many name dropping we're going to be doing in this segment. Like you said, I mean, he fought everybody who was around at the time. In terms of his style, he was kind of rough. One article I saw, somebody wrote about him when John Ruiz was popular in the heavyweight division, because that was the thing about Fritzy Zivic, is that he had good skills, but he was kind of famous for extracurricular activities. He wasn't really serious about the sport for a while. He turned pro in, I think it was, I just lost the thing. He turned pro in 31, and it wasn't really until he faced Billy Conn that he really got some notoriety. And before that, there already was a Hall of Fame name on his record, and that was Lou Ambers, who was a guy we've done a blast on. I know he's one of your favorites, the Herkimer Hurricane. He had a loss to him, but when he fought Billy Conn in 1936, and by that time he was 48-16-4. So I mean, more than 60 fights. It's unheard of. And he fought Conn to a split decision. I thought it was a loss, actually. BoxRec has it as a win. I thought I saw it as a loss somewhere else. Maybe BoxRec does that sometimes with newspaper decisions. But evidently it was just a tremendous fight, and he really got on the map. At the time, Conn was 29-6-1, and was an incredible boxer. But Zivic was, he was a guy who he claimed he never threw any thumbs. But he do everything, just about everything else, elbows, headbutts, you name it.
The thing that amazes me, you mentioned Billy Conn and my man Lou Ambers, Sammy Angot, Henry Armstrong, Al Bummy Davis, Lou Jenkins, Sugar Ray Robinson, Kid McCoy, Freddie Cochran, Jake LaMotta a bunch of times, Bo Jack a bunch of times. He fought these guys, Harold Green, Kid Azteca, Tommy Bell, Bob Montgomery. There's just so many names. You can't even, you can't fathom it. And jumping ahead here to just to give everybody an idea, this guy in his career fought 232 professional fights, 1,805 rounds. And, oh, by the way, he retired at 38 years old. It just doesn't – it's almost like mathematically it doesn't work, you would think he started fighting at 4 years old to get that many fights in during an era when – years and years ago they used to fight a lot. But during his era – this guy fought a lot, Alex. There's no question about it. And when he left, when he retired, he still was fighting decent level opponents. He fought some tough guys in their hometowns a lot. Fritzy Zivic, maybe he didn't throw thumbs, but he threw everything else. He liked to fight in a wheelhouse. He was just a gutsy guy. How would you describe his style?
It's sort of tough. I don't know who I would compare it to today, but you're right. He was in there against some of the tough guys too, like one of the guys known as the Clutch, Sammy Angot. He had a fight with him, so it wasn't like he avoided any styles. That's for sure. I think that he was not a huge puncher, but he had power enough to get a guy's attention. He did everything, basically right. But yeah, I think his main thing was tenacity. And I think the thing, like we were talking about last week, the thing that you really can't measure with these old timers is character. And just like we were saying, is that it took a while for him to get sort of serious about the sport. And from August of 1935 to February of 36, he lost 7 straight decisions, and then got it together, and went on a win streak, and then started, like you said, fighting everybody. His nickname was the Croat Comet. He was very fast. He had quick hands, and like you said, I think it's 10 Hall of Famers. Henry Armstrong, he was 2-1. That's who he beat for the title. He brutalized him. It was the bloodiest Henry Armstrong has ever been. He was 2-1 against Armstrong, one fight being a stoppage victory. He was 0-2 against Bo Jack, 0-2 against Sugar Ray Robinson, 1-3 against Jake LaMotta, 1-0-1 against Lou Jenkins, 1-2 against Charlie Burley, the guy no one would fight. He fights him 3 times. Billy Conn, he was 0-1. Although, like I said, that some places that's 1-0. I do see it was a split decision. Against Lou Ambers, he was 0-1, but supposedly he broke Ambers' jaw in the 9th round. Sammy Angot, he was 1-0, and the great Bobcat Montgomery, he was 0-1. It's unheard of. I don't know. I really don't know if there's somebody who's fought more. That's 10 Hall of Famers.
Isn't Harold Jackson in the Hall of Fame?
There's a couple of guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they end up in there. Al Bummy Davis is not in there. Freddie Cochran is not in there.
Oh, I thought Freddie Cochran was. Harold Johnson, I thought was.
Harold Johnson is.
Yeah. And Kid Azteca, I think, is in, isn't he?
Unless he's got another name. Yeah, he's not under there as Kid Azteca.
I thought he recently was was put in recently, like over the last 5 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but nonetheless, like you said, I mean, he could box better than people thought. But I always think of him as in-your-face kind of a fighter. Let's talk about the title that he won. He beat Henry Armstrong in 1941. And, oh, by the way, didn't he serve in World War II during his...
If he did, there's really no break in his career. I was looking for that. I didn't see that. And it doesn't mention it in his in his obituary.
No, he definitely joined the service during the war, whether he was able to fight or whatever. Because some of these guys fought real fights to raise money for the war effort. I mean, we all know the story with the Bronx Bomber, all his fights that he fought. That's what Uncle Sam ran after him for. Al Bummy Davis, I loved Al Bummy Davis. I wish he was in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, he fought after.
He's Genazzo, too. He was another tough guy.
Yeah, he was. And there was another guy he fought. What was it? Let me see if I can find his name. There was a guy that he fought in Boston a couple of times that was a real tough guy. And he actually moved up in weight. Let me see. I saw him on here before. And Ralph Zanelli.
Yeah,
remember him
at one point.
Yeah, he was a fan favorite, and in Boston, they loved him there, and he was just a tough guy. But anyway, considering he fights Sammy Angar, check out this lineup in 1940. All right, let's start in August. Forget it, because he fought every couple of weeks in 1940. But in August of 1940. He fights Kenny LaSalle on the 5th. On the 29th, he fights Sammy Angar. He fights Henry Armstrong on October 4th. He fights Al Bummy Davis on November 15th. He fights Ronnie Buden on November 26th. Gets all of those are wins, by the way. Gets a draw with Lou Jenkins at Madison Square Garden in 1940, December of 1940, and kicks off the new year, 1941, January 17th, with a world title shot against Henry Armstrong and wins by knockout. It's amazing, that string of fights that led to his world title, Alex.
Oh, it sure is. And that's the thing about it is that, look at that. October 4th, he beats Henry Armstrong for the welterweight championship by 15-round decision. That's the one. In one of the reports, it said that he wasn't, maybe he was saved by the bell, but Armstrong was actually on the canvas at the end of the fight, very bloodied. It was a really rough fight. And he follows that up a little over a month later with a fight with Al Bummy Davis. Yeah, could you imagine that today? A fighter fighting, 6 weeks later after winning a world championship? Just would never happen.
No, and listen, we've talked about how some of the rules today are better for the fighters. And we did an episode, Billy C's Boxing Revisited, on the Gene Fulmer. We did him as a blast from the past last week, and we talked about it. And the fight that he had with Benny Kid Perret really was the fight that I think, and when people watch this fight are going to agree, that was the one that actually put Benny Kid Perret in peril. And ultimately, a few weeks later, he ended up getting killed by Emil Griffith. If back then they had the rules where you would automatically get suspended after a knockout loss or even a brutal fight, maybe a guy like Benny Kid Perret wouldn't have been killed in the ring. And the same could be said for Fritzy Zivik and some of the wars that he was in. Maybe some of today's rules would have helped these guys, but I, for one, would love to see the activity that these guys had, especially against the level of opposition they had. I mean, it's unheard of to fight the same guy within a 12-month span several times, and not only one, fight a couple of guys several times in a 12-month span, and that's exactly what Fritzy Zivik did to get a shot at the title, and then while he had the title, and eventually losing it to Freddie Cochran in July of 1941.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is that, that's one of those things that we can't really answer. It's very difficult to answer. And one thing that we'd be remiss if we don't mention it, and I feel bad that I didn't mention it last week when we were talking about Gene Fullmer, it certainly seems as though these guys, there's no doubt about it, were tougher. There was a durability that today's fighters just don't seem to have. However, there's a cost for that. Both Gene Fullmer and Fritzy Zivik died of Alzheimer's disease. So these diseases of the brain perhaps do go hand in hand with a long bruising boxing career. So that is something that, it's wrong to say, I want my fighters to be tough, and not point out, that's what could very likely happen at the end of a life from a fighter who, fought everybody. But the other question comes up, I think, is did these guys do it in a smarter way in that they didn't spend all their time fighting in the gym? They fought actual fights. And don't gym head punches count just as much in terms of long-term brain damage as fight head punches? So, in a way, there's arguments that can be made on both sides. I did want to throw something in here. I did find a paragraph I highlighted from a 2009 article by Mike Casey. This is in terms of his style. Zivik was a highly effective and dangerous operator who could vary his style according to the examination at hand. He could pressure and hustle clever boxers out of their stride and outbox and outslug his fellow toughs. He could jab the brawlers silly when he chose not to engage with them, or break them up from close range with his winging hooks and brutal uppercuts. Zivik wasn't the cleverest of boxers or the hardest of hitters, but he was tough and durable, and his punishing style gained him the reputation of a feared warrior. He was the bump in the road that made other contenders think, oh my God, not him.
Well, that's a great piece by Mike. The thing is just to follow up, it's easy for us because we have the technology and the finances to do studies and all of these things. But there's a lot of people that suffer from brain-related diseases that never took a punch or never played sports or anything like that. So people have to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean you're punching a ticket to a life-threatening or life-altering disease if you get into boxing. However, there are also some proof that says that the chances go up pretty high. But the fact remains that what's our alternate option? And this is off topic here because this doesn't just refer to Fritzy Zivik, but if we are to make the sport of boxing so safe that there's no risk to a boxer's health at all, similar to any other contact sport, then why not make them illegal? Because it makes no sense to hinder the sport the way it was supposed to be. Now nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head to become an athlete. But once you become a fighter, for example, you have to know that what's involved in boxing is somebody's going to hit you. End of story. Make your decision from there. Sal says this all the time, is the risk worth the reward? And that's what has to be thought out. I think most people are smart enough to get some advice from others around them and weigh out their options and make a decision. But you made a perfect point that the fighters of this era fought more frequently. That's why I always refer to it as a trade. They got paid for it, where fighters in today's world of boxing will fight 2 or 3 times a year, make some money, but they're also holding down other jobs. What's better? A shot that you take in the gym, even with headgear, does just as much damage that you're not being paid for than a fight does that counts for your record. So it could be an argument worth having, Alex. But Fritzy Zivik, after his boxing career, he retired at a young age, at 38. What did he do?
He was a lavish spender. I love the lavish spenders. I can relate to them. There was no Amazon Prime in there, though. I don't know how they shopped. But
Sears.
But he did some promoting and managing. But he did have some. By the 50s, he was suffering from deep financial problems. We know that story. But yeah, he passed away at 71 years old. He had been a patient at the hospital for 3 years. Like I said, Alzheimer's disease. He's survived by a wife, Helen, a daughter, and 2 sons. And he, this is a guy that he, a welterweight champion, fought everybody. Like I said, some of the records, he was 0-2 against Bojack, 0-2 against Sugar Ray Robinson, but all of them were tough, difficult fights. He had a nose that was so often broken that you could actually push his nose in. It is a sport that takes a physical toll on you, but you're right. They know it going in.
Well, at least now they're told. You know what you're in for. But how did he fare in title bout?
As these old timers tend to do, he did very, very well against the 2 top guys at welterweight today, Keith Thurman and Errol Spence. The first time he fought Keith Thurman, he beat him by split decision. There were 2 scores of 116-111 for Zivic, 1 score of 115-113 for Keith Thurman. So split decision victory for Zivic. When they fight 100 times, Zivic wins, 79 victory, 13 defeats, 8 draws. He stopped Keith Thurman 21 times, and in his 13 wins, 1 time scored knockouts 4 times. And against Errol Spence, the first time they fight, Zivic scores a unanimous decision, 1 score of 117-111, 2 scores of 115-113. When they fight 100 times, Zivic wins 77, loses 19, draws 4, scores 42 big wins by knockout. And in his 19 victories, Spence was able to stop the Croat Comet 8 times.
The Croat Comet. That was one of his nicknames?
That was one of his nicknames, yeah.
Nice. No, I like that.
Yeah.
Fritzy Zivic, one of these kind of fighters that unfortunately we just don't see anymore, and it's a shame. But Fritzy Zivic, former world welterweight champion, was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1993, had a career record, ready for this, 158 wins, 82 by knockout. He did sustain 65 losses, in which he himself was only stopped 4 times. And I know Kid Azteca stopped them, Sugar Ray Robinson stopped them, and I don't have the rest of them with me in front of me right now. 9 draws, 232 fights, 35% KO ratio. Some young fans today might look at 65 losses, Alex, and say, oh, it couldn't have been that good. But when you look at the guys that he fought, if he didn't have 65 losses, maybe people would be considering him the best ever. I don't know. Fritzy Zivic, a tough guy. And incidentally, speaking about Sugar Ray Robinson, Coach made an interesting point in the chat room. He said that Sugar Ray Robinson said of all his fights, he felt that he learned the most from fighting a guy like Fritzy Zivic. So that compliment alone, coming from the best ever in the sport of boxing, has to be worth something, in my opinion. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things you could say about this guy is that when your losses are to guys like Bob Montgomery and Bojack and Sugar Ray Robinson and Billy Conn, you can still be quite a badass, and he certainly was.
There's no question about that.
And I think that's really the saddest and most unfortunate thing about the Mayweather legacy is that he's really made he's made losing into a bad word. like you said, Zivik had 60-something losses. He's in the Hall of Fame. You know, you learn from losses.
But it depends. It depends who you fight. How do you criticize a fighter for fighting? We just counted 10 or 12 Hall of Famers, right? I mean, you're not going to beat Hall of Famers all the time, but you're going to improve, and you're going to fight them again. That's another thing. You know, the saddest part has nothing to do with Floyd Mayweather. The saddest part is that the fans today accept it. They accept the fact that Floyd, in Floyd's case, well, you know, he doesn't get hit. Well, he's running. He's on the other side of the ring. He can't hit anybody either. Well, he doesn't lose. He makes a lot of money. That's the sad part to me. No discredit to the fighters, because I honestly believe we have the athletic ability in our fighters today. We just don't have the willingness, like you suggest before. And you said it nicely and politely. I'll say it gruffly the way I say everything. That fighters today are just not as tough as fighters were yesteryear. End of story. They're not as tough. You know, I mean, life isn't as tough. None of us are as tough. You know, so it is what it is. Alex, great job as usual. I appreciate your time. As you know, we will not be doing a show next week, so we got a line. We're stacked up with blasts, man. We got some good blasts coming up, brother. So
you're gonna do a show Friday morning?
This Friday?
Yeah.
We're Friday's our last show before we take off for a bit. So we'll be doing the show.
I'll call in then.
All right, sounds good, my man. Take care.
All right, Billy C, take care.
That's Alex Perpali giving us our blast from the past, and I appreciate that. He does a great job as usual. And we ran over a little bit, so for all of our affiliates, we will not be taking a break here as we're going to dig up my man Sal Rocky Senecola. Not for real, dig him up. I mean, he's very alive and well right now. And speaking of Sal Rocky Senecola, he's with us right now. And Sal, yeah, I tricked you. I know. We didn't take a break, but we got some emails to read. So let's get this going right now. First and foremost, this one's from Jesse. He says, "Hey, Billy C and Sal, I believe Neary will win via a TKO in the 11th round. This should be a good fight. Both guys are going to get dropped. Can you send me a link where I can watch it via my cell phone live stream?" Well, I'm sorry, Jesse. Obviously, we had some problems yesterday, so I wasn't able to read this email yesterday. But you were right. Neary did win via a TKO, except it happened in the 4th. For future, the best thing you can do, now, if you're looking for where you can watch our show via your cell phone, it's very easy. Just go to our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click download our app. You'll see a banner. It's on the right-hand side. Download our app, and you can watch our show on your phone anytime. And as far as watching other fights, if you go, we have an embed code on our website for Fight TV. Watch it right there, and you'll be able to watch all those fights, and you'll love that. He says, I also think the Ndongo fight will be a lopsided decision for Crawford. Ndongo seems to lack defense and has trouble with guys who pressure him. Burns had his moments when he pressured Ndongo, but was inconsistent. That's one of the fights this weekend, Sal. And, Crawford is giving up some height, but Crawford's got a killer instinct. And although this is the first unification since Bernard Hopkins, and I'm saying unification meaning all 4 major belts going to the winner since Bernard Hopkins did it about 10 years ago. This fight, Ndongo is a question mark, but I'm expecting Crawford to come out victorious. Do you think it'll be a lopsided fight?
I don't know if it's going to be a lopsided fight, Bill, but I do expect Crawford to be dominant, especially in the later rounds. He's a complete fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's well schooled. He has great defensive skills, but he stays in the pocket. He knows how to put punches together and do the combinations that are necessary to wear down his opponents. And I think it's going to be a good fight. But he will wear him down. I think he'll stop him in the later rounds.
Jesse also goes on to say, was there ever Billy, was there ever a collection of boxing cards available back then? Did you or do you have any? Yeah, I have complete collections of cards. As a matter of fact, we also give them away as prizes to our trivia questions and stuff like that. So stay tuned, Jesse, and answer some questions correctly. And we got them. I have some complete sets available that we're going to give away. We wanted to, with the event that Sal and I are having next week, I wanted to have, or Sal was pushing to have a memorabilia part, but we just couldn't get it all together. But you know what, Sal, I have something very interesting that I was saving for a future event that you and I do.
Yeah.
That I wanted to give away or have an auction for or something. I happen to have a signed glove and robe from Mike Tyson when Pepsi, when he was when Pepsi was a sponsor, and from what I understand, are extremely rare. He only signed a couple of them, and then, as we know, he lost that sponsorship. And I have them, a robe unopened and a glove with the Pepsi stamp with Mike Tyson's signature. So that's something that we will be, auctioning off or giving away or something at one of our events in the future.
I think auctioning is pretty good.
Well, you want it? You want to buy it? Is that what you're saying?
I want to buy it.
Is that what you're saying, Senecola?
I want to buy that and put it back.
I tell you what, if you want it, I'll put it back there on your set. How about that? I mean, it is what it is. As long as you don't wear the robe around. As long as you're not wearing. If I come at your place and you answer the door with Mike Tyson's robe, a slipper, and a cigar in your hand, I think I'm going to slap you. I mean, come on.
I want to tell you something. Come on in.
Yeah. You're like, oh, what, robes are out of style? What are you talking about? But anyway, yes, Jesse, we got him. But he says,
That's great.
He says, can you do a blast from the past with Julius Jackson and Chiquita Gonzalez? I think you mean Julian Jackson. He says, I like the way Jackson would stay in the pocket and fire in exchange or counter his opponents with power and speed. I'd love to see him up against Canelo, the Charlo brothers, or Triple G. No problem, man. We'll put Jackson on the list. Thanks for the email. And I thought I had a couple of more emails. What did I do with them? Oh yeah, I got one from Joel.
All right,
my man Joel, who I just kidded with in the chat room. Because if anybody wants to watch fights on Fight TV, you got to do it through our embed code on our website. I mean, that's the way to do it. Or if you want our app, you got to download it through our website. That's the name of the game, boys and girls. But Joel, as big of a fan as he is, maybe because if you'd send the poor guy a friggin' T-shirt, he wants a T-shirt. Maybe he would do more for us.
Yeah.
Come on.
I just got some in. The other day.
The poor guy's walking around with no shirt on.
Tell him to message me either on Facebook or whatever. I need his address again and his shirt size and color.
You just told him because he's watching and listening.
Thank you very much, Joel.
His
not
email,
not on this because I'll never retain it.
His
my
email,
Facebook message.
All you're thinking about is wearing a robe and slippers. That's all you're thinking about.
That's all I'm thinking about now.
Joel says, yesterday Heather Hardy announced that her next fight's going to be an MMA fight for Bellator, which is a competitor of UFC, in October at the Mohegan Sun. My question is, do you and Sal feel the bigger names in female boxing will turn to MMA, as it seems to give them more exposure and a bigger payday? It's disappointing that fans can't get behind women's boxing, but can get behind them in MMA. Why do you think that's the case, that women's MMA is huge, but the same can't be said for women's boxing? That's a tough question. First of all, of course, I've heard of Bellator. Of course, the big name that went from boxing success, and I don't think Heather Hardy was as good or as successful as Holly Holm was, but I'm not sure if that's the case. If they will become more noticeable, more known, more money, make more money in MMA. I do know that the UFC has a tendency to let fighters, specifically female fighters and men fighters too, compete in other leagues and then buy their contracts out after they're established. They bring some more value to the table. That's exactly what happened to Holly. But as far as boxing goes, you know what, Sal? I think that women's boxing was doing very well until fighters just like Heather Hardy started fighting the easy fights. Female boxing had something over men's boxing in the respect that they were fighting each other often. And now it took a different turn. They're safety first. You're seeing these fighters fighting for world titles against, marginal opposition at best. So I think that they did it to themselves. I think if they would have continued fighting the best fights available, I think the outcome would have been a little better. You have any thoughts on that? I know you're not a big female boxing fan.
Well, I'm not a big female boxing fan. I'm not a big MMA fan. But I'll tell you what, maybe part of it is there are two different fan bases for each sport. Some of them can cross over. Some of them are mutual, like Joel's a mutual fan. But I think, the core, you have your boxing fans who are boxing fans, you have your MMA fans who are MMA fans. And maybe some MMA fans, core fans, are more acceptable or more receptive to female fighting on an MMA level. So that's my thoughts.
I think you're right. I think there's more people that, more fans that follow the female boxing scene in MMA versus boxing. So I think you're right there. So, as I said earlier, we will not be doing live shows next week because I will be in transit, and Sal and I are doing a big event, not only in this place, but at the Sea Palms down at St. Simon's. And today we kind of went off a little bit on Floyd. I know I'm going to get some criticism on that. Larry gave us some great insight. And, I just want to make something clear. Floyd's a great fighter. And, I'm not a fan of his. But it's not because I don't think he's a good fighter. I don't particularly like his style. And I don't like that he's basically bamboozled his fans. And he has, and I tried to prove that today. And, people have a tendency to forget he avoided fighters like Paul Williams and some of the other names we talked about and chose the easier route. And it's hard to see that when you look at a resume. And it's hard to notice that when all you're looking at is wins and losses, who he fought, and their records and stuff, and you forget, or you're not old enough to remember who else was available, who was bypassed. I mean, it was very much publicized that Floyd Mayweather left Top Rank when the Margarito fight was offered to him, and it was a lot of money. I think it was slightly under $10 million, and Floyd left because he did not want to fight him and chose Carlos Baldemir. That's changed it all. But the one thing I want to mention real quick, Sal, before we wrap it up, and we had been talking about this. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. We had been talking about the people betting a couple, last week or whatever, and a lot of the money already in Vegas is being put on Conor McGregor, and the reason is because of the odds. Now, this started out as a very lopsided fight in terms of betting. And it's not so much anymore. It's down to 5.5, which means Floyd Mayweather is minus 5.5 versus Conor McGregor, which isn't a hell of a lot considering some of the other odds. Like I saw somewhere, what did I see? Crawford, for an example, is minus 2,200 against Indongo this weekend, meaning that you have to lay $2,200 to win 100. Well, check this out, and I want your thoughts. It was reported last week that the biggest wager so far has been placed on Floyd, which isn't a bad thing, but I don't know if I would take this chance. I think I'd be more inclined to bet $100 to win $550 on Conor and risk throwing away $100. But this guy bet $880,000 on Floyd Mayweather. Now Floyd Mayweather is going to win this fight, and he's going to win $160,000 for this bet. All right, but let me ask you this: and I know you I know you get tired of counting all your money, but if you had the time to count $880,000,
my ex-wife counts.
Would you?
Go ahead.
Would you put it on Floyd Mayweather to win 160? Would you take that risk? I mean, it's not a guarantee. There's still, I mean, the chances are you're going to win 160 bananas. But the truth of the matter is, would you take that chance? And in Vegas, by the way, it's not like calling Vito, our bookmaker, where you say, I want to put 880 grand on it. And if you win, you win. In Vegas, you got to walk up to the booth and hand them 880,000. And if you collect, you end up with the 1.04 million in pay. Would you lay that kind of coin to win 160 grand?
No, never. What I would lay is $25,000 down on McGregor, because if I won that, then I'd win the same amount of money for a fifth less, number one. Number two, I'd still have $800,000 left aside, so you're in a win-win situation. That's why the money's going on McGregor. That was a very good assessment. Look at that. But it's true. It's true. The smarter bet is the McGregor bet for the longer shot and the return
for broke guys.
But you know what? And I don't want to bet 80 cents to win 20 or 85 to win to risk 85 to win 15. To me, but you're talking about millionaires who.
That's my point.
They're in it to leverage themselves. They could bet one bet. He could probably bet one bet on side of Floyd, and he'll bet the other 200,000 on McGregor. So he's still ahead. Well, he's not going to be ahead, but he'll leverage his money.
Well, here's my point. You know, if you have the money, if you have an extra $1 million laying around, and you want to make more money than you could at a bank, maybe you would walk down to the casino and throw it on Mayweather. But for guys like us who don't have the money, we look at it a different way. We look at it putting out the least amount of money and willing to lose it with the chance of winning a bigger amount. It's like what I do. I don't know anything about horse racing, but when I go to a horse track, I'm betting my $2 $5 bets on the long shots, and I'm willing to throw that away. And I watch these big time horse guys, betting $50 to win $1.65 on the favorite. I would never do that. But that's because that's where we are. But anyway,
well, Bill, I was just going to say this guy's probably a billionaire, or he might be a multi-millionaire, Richard and Floyd. And this is a small percentage of his total assets. So guess what? It's safety first. So with him betting too, he's going to bet on a 85% thing. That's sure, or whatever the heck, and he's gonna leverage himself to win a quick $160,000. That's all.
Right.
And that's enough to pay taxes. That's all.
Exactly. Hey, listen, man. Don't forget, we're going to be doing a live show tomorrow. We're going to talk a little about the real fight that's coming up, and that's Triple G and Canelo.
Yes.
And then Friday we'll be back, and we'll be breaking down and giving you our predictions on the fight this weekend between Terence Crawford and Julius Indongo, the first unification fight since Bernard Hopkins did it almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So, we'll be talking about that. And don't forget, we will not be doing live shows next week as we are preparing for our big event down in St. Simons that we want you guys to be part of. So just go to cpalms.com right now and give them a call and tell them that you want the prices for the Billy C boxing event packages, and come on down and hang out with Sal and myself and some of the former world champions that we've been talking about. But nonetheless, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.